top-notch studio. So,
go ahead.
Awesome. You guys are gonna have a great conversation. We'll get also a group photo of you guys. Oh, you already did.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good luck.
Whoop, whoop.
How do we know when to start?
I guess.
I'm assuming.
I will let you know.
Oh, there we go.
Good Lord have mercy. Okie dokie.
All right, guys, we're going to go in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome. Thank you all for this opportunity to just have this discussion with you all around how our personal and business values kind of guide the work that we do. And this topic is so kind of near and dear to my heart in terms of values, because values for me are kind of like my internal compass. And they kind of guide me through not only my personal life, but also in business. So I'm very intentional about this work because it's purposeful, it's intentional, and my work is coaching, counseling, training, teaching, and I do a lot of culture work in organizations around values. So the topic itself lends itself to what works best for me so that I don't find myself in a situation where business and even my personal life starts to feel icky. Mm-hmm. And so when that's happening for me, I have to take a step back and do a very clear value assessment. Is there alignment? Am I honoring my values or potentially dishonoring my values? Or is there something about whatever the collaboration, business, client for that matter, is not in alignment with? So I really would love to hear kind of your approach to that, certainly as it connects, because oftentimes we hear this whole language around my business is my life. Mm-hmm. And my business is my life for me means that I honestly show up personally and professionally the same way. And so I would love to hear what that looks like for you all.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Nick. I believe that your business is an extension of who you are.
I apologize, guys. For the lady in the middle,
my mic's not close enough to me.
It's not even on, actually. So is there a button underneath the desk there? It's maybe orange. If you push it, it should be green.
How about now?
That's good.
All
Sorry
right.
about that.
Oh,
You're
we
good?
good?
Yep.
Okay, am I on? Can you hear me?
Somebody from the last group might have accidentally hit that.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Good to go. Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right. So, I agree with you. I think that our business should be an extension of who we are personally. For me, that means living out my life in my business with authenticity and transparency as a betrayal, trauma, and abuse recovery coach. Mm-hmm. Building that safety with my clients is paramount, and unless I'm willing to show up as I do in everyday life, all my flaws as well as my strengths, my clients can't come to a place where they can even begin to entrust me with the most sorrowful and devastating things that have happened to them in their life.
Oh, that's rich. Very rich.
Yeah, so I think I lead with my values, which is tough for a lot of people, and I've had to work on it, but my number one value is self-love, which is, I didn't realize how difficult that was for a lot of people. I've done a lot of coaching and conferences and leadership programs, and when we come up on that subject, oftentimes so many other people take care of their families and their businesses and their lives to the detriment of themselves. And the sayings, put on the mask first before you help others, and you can't pour from an empty cup. Mm-hmm. I really prioritize filling my cup first and taking care of myself. Self-love is not selfish. It's in order to take better care of those around you, you have to put that as a priority. And so that's, not just loving yourself and working to love yourself for who you are and what stage you're at in your journey of, healing, but, feeding yourself the right foods, feeding your mind the right books, the right content, what you're taking in is a direct correlation to what you're putting out. And so physically working out, being active, moving, I say that I'm always forming healthy habits for my future self, and really like thinking of myself and how I'm going to show up, and my goals are to be like healthy and active and thriving in my 70s, 80s, 90s. And so that's kind of how I evaluate what I do on a day-to-day basis, how I balance my work and my life. The second value is family, and my third is positive impact, and not even just directly around me, but to the ultimate, like, massive transformative purpose of having a global positive impact, and the ripple effect of maybe I won't get to global, but somebody that I help and impact may do, have a global impact.
Yes, we call that being self-carish. It's self-carish. And actually, Nick and I were talking about this earlier, right? Culturally, how, so many people misinterpret love thy neighbor as thyself. And he and I were talking about, people invert that, because what that means is you need to know yourself and love yourself well to be able to care and love others. You cannot give what you don't have and you don't possess. We were just talking about that this morning.
Yes. That's I love that. That's really rich, because one of the unique things about values is that they can shift and change in each season of our lives. And so that is why I think it is so important that you talked about really, pouring in and making sure that we really take care of ourselves first before we lean into that with others. And I always use the analogy of the glass that's half full, which can be seen by several different perspectives. And the philosophy that I use behind it is the glass half full still has something in it.
Yeah.
And when we're operating both personally and professionally, especially with clients and even with our own family, as long as there's something in it, the glass represents us. So as long as I got something in there, I give it. And I lean into that, and I give it, and I give it, and I give it. And as I'm giving, I'm depleting. And while I am giving, one of the things that I ask so that there is alignment is, am I giving the best version of me?
Yes.
And the reason I can't give the best version of me is because I'm depleting. I'm not pouring into me.
Exactly.
And so as I continue to make it an intention to make sure that I pour into me, I honor who I am, I honor my values, so does the glass fill up, or the vessel in you builds up. So when I fill up, that overflow that comes out is what I'm able to give to my family. It's what I'm able to have and exercise in my personal life, and then it's what allows me to show up in the best kind of way for my clients. And that for me is priceless, but it is very intentional that I do it, because when we start thinking about value alignment in both personal and business, some of the things that will help you really understand your client is understanding their values. So because I do a value exercise with each and every one of my clients, I get to meet them where they are, and I find out what that looks like. You all have some different businesses. I would love to hear, how do you regulate values and value alignment with your prospective or even ideal client?
Wow, that's a very good. Well, honestly, with all of my clients, I do their Discovering Values workbook with them when I initially see them. Usually takes 2 or 3 weeks to work through that. And then I work with them for probably 10 weeks, and I help them identify their feelings and their needs, because many of those women, you work with mostly women. With that population, with the coercive control and the abuse, we naturally, as women, are compassionate. We're caregivers. We are used to fueling and giving out. And in that type of a relationship, it's even more so, because that man targeted us and married us because they knew we were strong, we were compassionate, we were loving, and we would do whatever we needed to carry the relationship. So these women don't even know what a need is, let alone have a feeling, because they weren't allowed to do so. So when I give a woman a feelings list and a needs list, they're like, oh, I thought there were 5 feelings. I'm like, no, there's lots of feelings. And so it's a lot of fun to go through a process with them where they feel safe. They feel like they have some stability, that they're reclaiming their voice or finding their voice. And then moving into that strength, and then redoing that Discovering Your Values workbook and watching them see what their values were from a survival mode, and now what their values are from a thriving mode, and being able to move forward in confidence to make choices that align with their values and beliefs. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah. For myself, my main business is real estate sales. So, helping families and individuals make one of the largest purchases that they're ever going to make. And working with first-time home buyers is, there's a lot of unknowns. And so I'm a very analytical person. When I got in the business, when I bought my first house, it was price point, square footage, location, and I came from that approach, with like looking at clients thinking that everybody was the same. So I hired a coach when I switched careers, and she helped me become more self-aware. And then I realized how much I wanted to help other people in that same way. So I got a coaching certification and just really dove deep into personal growth and development. And that helped me be a better real estate agent for my clients. It helped me dig below the surface, asking questions, finding out what's important to them, what's going on in their life, what are their hobbies, are they moving here for family? Because my natural route was to go bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, price point, location, and that's not how most of us make decisions. We like to think that we're very logical and analytical, but it's often emotional based. So having a buyer's consultation, having a seller consultation, sitting down with the client and getting to know what their wants and needs are, asking more questions, and it's something that I continuously work on, to like David said yesterday, be more interested than interesting. And so in any situation, it's ask more questions and let them talk. And so even in our sessions, I ask questions, and then I send follow-ups of like a buyer and seller intake forms that asks even more questions that we may not have touched on, just so that I have more information to move forward with. And working with partners and like lenders, that also come from that same perspective of getting to know what the client wants, where it's a custom experience rather than if you go to a typical, retail lender, they're going to look at your debt to income ratio, and they're going to say, all right, you're pre-approved for this amount, and, here's what your interest rate is. And that doesn't work for everyone. It's like, what are your goals? How long are you going to stay in this house? Is this just a move-up home? Is this, if you're going to plan to move out a little bit, have you thought about using it as a rental property? Do you want down payment assistance? What is your monthly budget going to be? Most people and realtors and lenders, a lot of them don't ask those questions like, have you thought about what you want your monthly payment to be? That's one of the biggest ones, because then we reverse engineer it from there. Do you have a budget? Financial literacy is like one of the downfalls when it comes to buying a house. I come across so many people who don't know how to do that. They've never had a budget, and so it's all foreign to them. And so coming from the approach of caring and wanting to have a positive impact on their lives, to make sure that they're getting into something from the beginning that is going to suit them for this next chapter of their lives, is kind of the approach that I take, and making sure that they're thinking about themselves, going back to self-love. Like, they might not be thinking about what this house is going to do for them for the next few years. We had a lot of people in 2021, 2022, when the housing market was like at its peak, and in Texas where I live, people were paying over asking price, and now life circumstances, they're needing to sell and they have no equity. They're upside down on their house, and they're in tough situations because people didn't have these conversations with them and make them think of the future and what it would do for their lives and like the next chapter of their lives.
I love that. The whole idea that you actually take them almost their financial literacy program so that they actually understand this is going to be your payment. Whereas most realtors, they could give two shits about that. All they care about is the sale, and then you can figure out how you're going to pay your mortgage. So I love that. Really love it.
I had a very good mentor when I got started in the business who asked, do you want a transactional-based business or do you want a relationship-based business? And, that transactional base where they only care about the commission, just getting this deal done and moving on to the next one, it's really shooting yourself in the foot, too, because when you build a relationship, you're getting their future business, their friends, their family, so it is more beneficial to you in the long run. And not being so focused on, even in that transaction, the percentage that you're getting. It's like, I would rather get my client into a home that they enjoy and they have a positive experience, because that's going to pay dividends over the long term as well. But you're prioritizing the person and putting their needs first before you, and making sure that they're happy with the results. And we do see that a lot, that a lot of people come from the transactional approach in lots of businesses, in coaching, and just trying to sell a course or a product or something like that, without packing value into it, just trying to sell something to sell something.
I love that approach because it goes so far beyond what the traditional is, and because of that, there's that challenge that we all may face, that when individuals seek us for services, that oftentimes we might have to raise the question, because while, as you just described, how your approach is more relational, oftentimes we might have clients who it is just their desire for this to be transactional. And so I might have a client that says, I'm doing this solely for the purpose of, it's a performance improvement plan, and I've got to do this in order to keep my job. So I got to go through this process, and I may have to have some, leadership coaching or some improvement coaching, and I'm just doing this as a survival thing. Or I'm just doing this as a behavioral exercise, as I call them. And in those cases, it can be just as transactional for them, but also you. And so oftentimes for me, when it's clear to me that, I use the iceberg as an example, where they really just want me to know them above the iceberg. And so their language is all surface language, and it might be generous, kind language and very generic or vanilla, as I say. But I know, just because I've been doing this work a long time, that there's a whole lot below the iceberg. But they're not interested in that with me. So the challenge sometime is, how do I create the space so that they're willing to go deeper? And oftentimes that might be leaning into more difficult questions that just can't be yes and no, that just can't be surface. And sometimes it might be identifying some things, whether it's their nonverbal communication or identifying some themes that maybe they may see that they didn't think I saw, or they may show up as, and they didn't notice I noticed. Or I noticed that during this conversation, you've never mentioned anything about Dad. or your intake indicated that you had 3 children, but you've never talked about them. You know, and that sometimes takes it from transactional to more impactful and more value added, so that there's a deeper conversation that could be had with the client. So navigating through the value at times when there may be alignment or non-alignment, but yet this is still work for us. How do you all manage through that, even in spaces where I've got this client, and I never like to have this feeling, but I can't sit here and tell you that I haven't had this feeling, but I've got this client that comes every other week, but they are not willing to do the work. And they showed up telling me that they were, but we're, let's say, 6 weeks in, they're just not willing to do it. So part of this for me says going through the intake process like almost all over again and saying, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And based on your goals, we're not even scratching the surface yet. Are you still committed to this process? And if there is resistance, I've gotten to a place where I'm okay saying, I just don't think it's a good fit. How do you all deal with when there might be that value alignment? Because when it starts feeling icky for me, and I do my own self-evaluation, and I'm just not feeling as though I'm serving, but it feels every bit of transactional, and that this is just a behavioral exercise and they have no interest in doing the work. That's not fun for me. It's not fulfilling for me. How do you all do that, short of, or even leading to ultimately saying, I'm just not the person for you?
You know, Nick, I don't have that issue with my clients. My clients come to me because they are bleeding out on the floor. They're confused. They're devastated. They don't know which end is up, and they have no idea what's been happening to them. So when women come to me, their biggest value is, will you hear me? Do you see me? And I spend a lot of time with my clients letting them know, I hear you and I do see you. I totally get it, because when you're in a relationship with an abuser and a coercive controller, if you talk to someone who does not have the eye to see, and you're telling them what you're experiencing, they look at you like you have a third eye in the middle of your head, because in our humanness, we just can't fathom that there's actually a partner out there that would do the things that you're telling them are happening to you and be so cruel when there's somebody that's meant to love you and protect you. So my challenge is on the flip side of that.
Okay.
It's where I have a woman who comes to me and wants to work with me, but she needs more support than I'm able to provide for her at the time. And getting a woman who is, we're usually the glass is half full girls. We are very rarely see ourselves in as psychologically in need as we are. And so getting a woman to allow me to take her hand and place it in the hand of somebody else where she might need some psychomedical support, that's the challenging part for me. And those women are usually trauma bonded, and they get stuck, and it's the same every time you meet with them. It doesn't matter what they chose as their homework, they come back and they're retelling you the same story. And when I have that woman, that's the woman that I have to say, as much as it breaks my heart, we need to get you a little bit more support. I'm not letting you go. I'm not abandoning you. I'm here. We just need to get you a little support. so that you can get out of your limbic system, right? And we can start bringing you up to your prefrontal cortex so that you can start making choices for yourself. Because right now, you've been living here for so many years, and your brain is on a loop. And we need to get you a little bit more support before we can actually get some traction to help you move forward, so that you can make choices that align with your values and beliefs.
Yeah.
That's good.
Absolutely. So on the real estate side of things, dealing with clients, it goes back to when I first started in the business. I mean, in a new business, you're going to try and take on anything, anything and everything. And so I remember I had a client that from my previous life, a girl that I knew from the bars. She said, dating a guy, were looking at $600,000 houses. So for me, I was going and opening up doors, but could never get him to put in his paperwork to get pre-qualified. And so it was like, red flags there. But again, I was getting experience and learning. Ultimately, he never bought, couldn't ever get him pre-qualified. I did see some of his numbers eventually. It didn't look like he could afford a $600,000 house. I think he was just trying to impress the girl. So, the more experience that I got, the more that it's a give and take. Like, if I have somebody, they have to put in some work. I've put more boundaries up that respect me and my time. So it's like, I'm not going to go waste my time now on if somebody's not pre-qualified, if they don't want to show up for a buyer's consultation, to go through the process with them, setting those next steps and those expectations. One of my favorite sayings is, unspoken expectations lead to premeditated resentments. So whether it's you not setting your expectations with them and then them disappointing you, or vice versa, you're setting yourself up for failure from the beginning. So I have a client expectations list that I give them at our buyer consultation, just like I have an agent expectation list of what I'm going to do for them. And it's a matter of filtering out those people. Like, most of my business is referral based, or past clients, sphere of influence. I haven't done a whole lot of online lead generation. The ones that I have done is from YouTube, and it's because I've built a social media presence that kind of filters out the people who aren't going to like me or want to do business with me. I'm very disciplined. I wear this shirt, 1% Better Every Day, as more of a filter for people. It's going to repel people that I don't want in my life, and it's going to attract more people to me that I do want in my life who understand this shirt. This shirt gets me a lot of conversations, people coming up and saying, I thank you, or I get that, or somebody saying, oh, that doesn't work, that type of thing. And I was like, well, you're not the same mindset. And so moving forward with building my brand and my business and reaching out to the masses, it's like being very aligned to people, knowing my values of self-love, family, positive impact. Those things will bring more of the clients that I want. And then it's the mindset, the abundance mindset of knowing that there's an abundance of business out there, and if somebody isn't for me, then that's okay. There will be somebody else for me who fits that client fit, where they're going to put in the work that they need to put in on their end in order to accomplish it. Because a lot of stuff, I can't do it for them. I can be the guide and help them get to their destination, but they're the hero of the journey, and they have to overcome and slay the dragon. They have to be the one who puts in the work to get to where they want to be.
Right.
And I think that makes the biggest difference between us as coaches versus the therapy hat. Because therapy hat automatically implies that there's something wrong with you. Your coach's hat, I inherently believe my client knows themselves best. They just don't know they know themselves best. And that's the rewarding part.
Yeah. It's interesting that as I'm sitting here listening and my mind is thinking, there's so much rich conversation here, and we all have these systems that we work out of, that we're used to working out of, and they work for our business model. And in every single scenario, the clients come to us, or they're a referral, or they're a referral of someone else based on their experience with us. And so I'm hearing, if I'm hearing correctly, we all have these kind of buffers in here based on our experiences, where we make sure we get to a space where when there needs to be alignment, we do our internal check and we make sure things are good. So we really have expounded on the really true foundational need for not only value alignment, but also throughout the process of the client. We're always doing those checks and balances to make sure that, hey, not only can I still support you from an accountability standpoint on this journey, or until we make that sale, or until our relationship is over, at least for this particular experience, but that I'm making myself available in service in as much as that can be extremely fulfilling for us. And so love this conversation with you two. This was really good. And for those who are looking to follow me, experience me, or even do a discovery call with me, I am on all the social medias as either Nick Dillon, Nick, N-I-C-K, Dillon without the I-O-N, just O-N, and also under the Believe Coach. So if you look up the Believe Coach, you can also find me, as well as looking up my website, which is nicholasdillon.com. So a lot of rich resources, and I'd love to work with you. How about you?
You can reach me and find me on LinkedIn at Dr. Lisa Dawn Fox. There's lots of Lisa Foxes, and I love my middle name, so there we go. And you can also find me at shadowandsoul.com. And if you go to shadowandsoul.com, you can just click on the link and register for a free 30-minute consultation. I like to meet with my clients first to make sure that we're a good fit and that I'm the one that is going to be of the best help for you. And if not, then I'm going to refer you to somebody who is able to help you. Yeah, and the premise behind my Shadow and Soul is, shadows are the places where the unknown lies and where things and reality can be skewed. And the soul is our mind, our inner spirit, and everything of our essence that we truly are. And so I like to help people find that clarity.
That's awesome. And for myself, my name is Yitzchak Pierson. Yitz like Ritz-Carlton, Ock like October. And you can find me on all social media. My website is yitzchakpierson.com. I'm sure we'll put it in the show notes, but it's YITZCHAKPIERSON.com. You can reach out to me at 512-749-6532. I sell real estate in the New Braunfels, Texas area. If you're looking to buy or sell or invest, reach out to me. And if you're an agent wanting to grow your business, I am growing my business. I am at eXp Realty, so I can help you take your real estate business to the next level.
Awesome.
Love it. Thank you, Nick, for facilitating.
Great
Yes.
values exercise. Love it. Thank you all.
All right.
Great. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was fun.
Was that fun? Thank you.
Yeah.
Those are great questions. Great questions.